Hi everybody, it's Gretchen here. Oh, there we go. I was wondering why my lighting was so dim, but I guess the camera just needed to warm up. Cheryl, do you know if Lindsay's going to get on? Just didn't know if I should wait for her. Okay. Well, I was thinking about, first of all, I was thinking about muting my computer just in case. Okay, here we go. And I was going to start with some coloring first, just in case a couple people were late getting on. So we can go ahead and do that. The first card we're going to do is this Thinking of You card with the violets, or the graduation card, depending on which one you chose. You get off a little easy with the graduation card because there is no coloring unless you wanted to color in the cap. You could always use, you could do a gray or a black, or if you wanted to stick with the neutral color theme, or if you knew the school color of the graduate, you could always color it in with that color. But otherwise, you can sit back and relax for a minute, and we will color some violets. So we've got the cluster of 3 violets and the 2 individual ones, a big one and a little one. And if you guys don't get too seasick, I might try to bring this camera down a little bit so that it's a little closer on the detail. As long as there we go. As long as it doesn't fall down on me, let's all hope it does not. All right. And the samples of the purple ones, I colored in with marker, but I have both marker and colored pencils with me. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit of both here, switch back and forth. So we could, you can use whatever you have, whatever you want. I'm going to start with a very pale yellow. Actually, I'm going to start by putting on my glasses. Okay, that's better. And I'm just going to do the very pale yellow in the center of these flowers. And I'm going to color all of them. I try to remember to color all of them as I go here, so because it's a little quicker to not keep switching out the pencils. As always with colored pencils, the harder you press, the more intense the color. So I usually try to start out with a lighter hand, and then if I want a deeper color, then I could come back a little heavier. Yellow, being such a light color, then obviously it's not going to, no matter how hard you press, it's not necessarily going to be all that deep. I started out with a pale yellow, canary yellow, apparently. And now I've got a more goldy color, and I put the light yellow right in the center. And then I'm just coming out a little more with the goldy. And I probably will, I may, if I decide this yellow is too much, if I colored too much of it, I might color over it with the purple. Who knows? We'll see. It's the nice thing about the lighter colors. You've got a little more give. I am sticking like on this, and see, I kind of broke my own rule. On this one and this one, I kind of stuck to the 3 front petals and not those 2 dark back petals kind of with the yellow. This one, I colored all 5 for some reason because I wasn't really paying attention. You know, violets kind of have those, the front petal, I think. I'm not a flower expert, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. But you know, those are going to be darker, and the front ones here are kind of a paler color. So that's a little bit of how I colored them in the sample here. All right. So, oh, the other thing I was going to say about colored pencils is, first of all, I need some new ones. As you can see, they're getting some of them. Some of them are getting pretty small, and they're getting harder and harder to sharpen because they keep breaking on me. So definitely need to get some new ones. But I have had these since college, so it's not like they haven't gotten good use. But the other thing I was going to say that you can, if you have a nice pencil eraser, and usually the erasers I use are, sorry about that phone in the, it's going off. If you have a nice pencil eraser, and I like to use these ones from these white ones that are on my mechanical pencils, you can, if you've colored too deep a color and you don't like how dark you've colored, you can, this isn't too dark, but I'll show you that you can usually erase some of it. It does kind of blend away the pencil marks too. So that is another technique if you wanted kind of a softer, let's see if it'll focus in. Okay, it's not going to focus in. I don't know how well you can see it there, but it kind of softens those pencil marks. So if you did get a lot of, you know, pencil marks in and you don't like that, you could always try going over it with a eraser. And like I said, you know, it does lighten the color, but erasing a colored pencil will never get rid of the color completely, but it might make it light enough that you can color over it with a darker, well, definitely a darker color, but sometimes a different shade of color if you decide you didn't like what you did on your first shot. Sorry, I'm a little out of focus today. I've done a lot of different things. I've sat here for a few minutes, but I guess I wasn't quite thinking about what I was going to talk about here. So I'm just going through lightly and coloring the petals with a light purple, and then I will go through and deepen the color. So I'm kind of trying to duplicate the technique I got on with my markers. And I'll talk more about the markers on the next one when I use those. But I did use, here I am going to color the whole petal a little darker here and go over that yellow a bit. It'll still show in and it'll still brighten. Brighten the purple. But I want these petals to be a little darker than the front ones. And I am going to darken the front ones too a bit. Okay, so yeah, you can see there that those two back petals are definitely darker. I'm going to go ahead and darken the edges of the front ones now. So it's trying to make it multicolored petal here. I think I started to say that the markers I used were alcohol ink markers. And I'll talk a little bit of, I'll talk a little more about that later for the newer people who might not be familiar with the different colored markers. I will say if you're using a water-based marker, just be careful with how many times you go over, because if you scrub a lot with them, you can really damage the paper, because the paper will soak in the marker ink. But usually with those markers, you don't have to go over them a lot, because they're going to be really intense and put out a lot of color for you. Now, I do find when I am coloring marker, or coloring with colored pencils rather, sometimes I'll go really intense and sometimes I'll go light. And sometimes that's just because of just trying to see in the camera if you can actually see what I'm doing. If you wanted to watch my coloring. And often that's just my mood. My technique, because believe me, my technique is nothing special. Is what is the word I'm looking for? Dictated kind of a bit by my mood, I think. And I got a blob there that I don't like, so I'm just going to erase a little bit. Oh, the other thing you do have to be careful of when you erase, that sometimes it will transfer the pencil to white, the white paper around it. So you do kind of have to be careful about that. Okay, that smoothed it out a little. It just had it looked a little weird in a spot. Like I got a darker spot where I didn't want a darker spot. Okay, so you can see here on this back one that I really went deeper. I tried to go deeper in the color around this other petal, because I imagine that the front petal is throwing shadow on the dark petal. So that is you can tell by the illustration with the lines, the drawn lines of the image, that they intended that to be a shadow. So we're just going to take the artist's rendering and go with it, and put more color in that spot. And then I'm going to, I already did kind of go a little bit darker around these edges here. Not as dark as in the back, but you can see it's a little lighter, closer to the yellow, and a little darker around the edges, and then really much deeper on those back petals. So I'm just going to do the same on, and then in this front one, I'm going to go a little deeper now, I guess. These are not supposed to be super realistic by any means. Have you guys ever seen the videos on Instagram when they're coloring something in, and they do good or simple, good, better, best? There's usually 4 levels, and then if you color it this way, this is the simple way to do it. But then, by the time they get to the best, it looks almost realistic. I don't know why, but I always get sucked into watching those and wasting my time. Okay, so you can still see the yellow underneath, and I'm not going right into the center, but I am going over, again, these lines on these back two petals on the front right flower and just making it a little deeper in there. All right, so that's that flower. And then I'll do the last one. Obviously, my tendency today is to be a little lighter on the color, so. Or maybe it's not just me, maybe it's my colored pencil, it's tired. It's telling me I'm short enough, get a new pencil. I've worked too hard. You know, it's sad. I actually do have another box of pencils. I just remembered. I just never took them out. There is a thing, they call them watercolor pencils. And I know I've done a class with them, but it's been a very long time. So I don't know if any of you have taken one. But they look like a regular colored pencil, so you just color like you normally would, but they are water activated, unlike regular colored pencils, and they kind of turn into watercolor paint. So you can then take a water brush to them and smooth them out after you've colored them, and it looks more like watercolors. I will have to do a class on those because those are fun, or at least a demo so you guys can see them. Actually, maybe I'll buy the last card. I know exactly where they are, so I can dig them out, and so I can show them to you in case you ever want to try them. I don't have as many colors with those because I only have a small box of those, but they're fun. Okay. So, gosh, I keep thinking when the camera's not focused, but really it's because when I have to take my glasses back off to look over at my monitor. All right, so those are my flowers. And now I am going to do my leaves. I didn't, in the sample here, I didn't really do a whole lot of, it's mostly a solid color. I'm not sure why I did that, or if the second color I tried to blend with wasn't different enough, so it didn't blend. So basically I'm just, with a medium pressure, I'm just coloring the whole leaf here. And then I'm going to go through and I will put some accents in. I sharpened this pencil twice today and the tip broke off twice. And I can pull the tip right out of that. So I'm trying to be careful with it so it doesn't break on me. I read a technique, and I have no idea if it works or not because I haven't tried it, but supposedly if you put parchment paper down on a cookie sheet and put your colored pencils on it and then put them in the oven at like 400, I don't remember the temperature is. I actually wrote it down so I can try it. And I've got some weird pencil strokes in there, so I'm just going to use my eraser again. and then, like put them in the oven for like 5 minutes. Supposedly it could melt the lead that's in them. The lead, it's not, lead, hopefully, back together, because they say like when you sharpen a pencil, a colored pencil especially, and it breaks off like that, like I said, this one did, it's because like you may have dropped the pencils and it broke inside. And so by heating it back up, they'll melt again. I don't know if it'll work, but I think I'm going to have to try it and I'll let you know. And as you may know, I drop everything, so it would not be a surprise if all of my pencils were all broken inside. Okay, I am going to pick up a darker color of green and kind of follow the drawn veining in these leaves and just make it a little darker along the lines, the drawn lines, and then down kind of at the bottom of the leaf here. Closer to the flowers, because again, I imagine the leaves are underneath the flowers, and so there's some shadowing there, so they would be darker in that area. Okay. Sorry, I know I got a weird speech pattern going, but it's because I'm focusing on color while I'm talking. Okay, good. Thank you for letting me know that the camera is fine. It is my glasses. I had to just remember to take them off when I look up. Or, of course, put them on the tip of my nose. Those flowers look better now that the leaves are colored in. Oh, and I told you I was going to do all my flowers at once, and I instantly forgot those, didn't I? All right, I'm going to use an even paler color green for these little leaves here, just to bring in some more variety of color. I mean, it's not a huge difference in anything. Obviously, I use this color green a lot less than these two color greens, although all of them are used less than my little tiny purple. And you should see one of my pinks, which is like practically so small now I can't hang on to it. You can buy, these are my favorite colored pencil. They're Prismacolors, and you can buy individual ones to replace, but goodness knows how expensive that is these days. As with everything else, they probably make it cheaper. Not that these pencils are cheap, but it's probably cheaper just to buy the variety pack than to buy a couple individual ones. Okay. Yeah, that's not a huge difference in color there, but makes me feel better. And that's that one. Okay. Go back to my other violets. And again, I'm just going to color the three front ones a lighter shade to start with, and then deepen them around the edges. The type of paper you use to color on also vastly affects the look of your colored pencils. This is a very smooth white cardstock. So your strokes, pencil strokes, will hopefully be less noticeable than they would on a rougher type of paper. And that's also very important when we get to the markers, because the markers, wow, it just started downpouring. I just had to check and make sure that's what I was hearing. The markers really want a nice smooth surface because they blend better when you have a smoother paper. You know, it makes me wonder about those adult coloring books. I don't have I do have one somewhere, but I'm not recalling what the paper content is, or, you know, the linen content of the paper and how smooth the paper is, but it can make a difference depending on what you're coloring with. Okay. And again, I'm just making the back one's darker, and especially where the petals intersect here. You know, it's not always, if you're having trouble with stroke marks, your pencil might be too sharp. It's great to have a nice sharp tip to get into points, but it will create more visible pencil strokes. Unlike right now, where I have a nice dull rounded tip and it's making a nice, oh, and you may notice I'm coloring on a stack of scrap paper. That can lessen your stroke marks too. If you have a softer surface underneath, you can use a padded surface. You know, the paper will do it. Some foam is nice, will give you a smoother kind of color than if you color, like if I had my paper directly on this board, this is pretty rough, so it would pick up that texture. Now, they actually have things, they have boards, they call them texture boards, that you can put under what you're drawing and coloring to deliberately pick up that texture. I don't have any, but that's a whole nother technique. Actually, I suppose that might be another use for your embossing folders. You can use them, and this card does have the embossed background. You can maybe use your embossing folders, put whatever you're coloring underneath, and use it as do a kind of rubbing thing. You know, when we were kids and we did rubbings and bring that texture through. Maybe I'll have to experiment with that and see if we want to do a class with something like that. I shall see. I'm just deepening around the outside of these petals right now. And then again, I'm going to color the back ones darker. I guess it's kind of the opposite. I was just thinking, like the three front petals I'm keeping brighter in the middle and darker around the edges, and these dark ones I'm making them darker, kind of the shadowy where they overlap kind of thing. And it seems like it's almost the opposite, but I think that's, flowers, when they open up, they tend to be brighter in the middle of the flower. One of those mysteries of nature, I guess. I think after being in the house for 25 years, I may have lost the benefit of the previous owner's gardening skills, because all this time um, we've gotten daffodils in the front bed by the walkway of our house, and they just bloom year after year. And when we first moved in, there were some tulips. The animals ate them. And then one year I planted bulbs because I love tulips, and I actually had to get down on my knees, dig in the dirt. There were worms. I know this doesn't bother some people, but it bothers me. And they were beautiful for a year, but then they only had the 1 year. And I was like, well, that's way too much work to keep doing that every year. And now, last year, we didn't get very many daffodils, and this year we got even fewer. So I guess they're tired after 25 plus years, and I may, not have any more flowers anymore. I might have to do some work myself, which doesn't really excite me. Okay, so if you really want to deepen the color of your violets here, I'm now using a navy, well, it's actually indigo blue, but a navy marker. And you see how I really made some dark lines in here with that blue, and a little bit around the outside. So if that's, let's do it on one of these and see if we like it here. Because I like it on some of the, like I like the blue in here. I like the blue in here because this really helps deepen that, but I don't really love it over the yellow. I don't know. I think I went online and looked at a picture of a violet to do the color, and it seemed to have that, but my execution of it didn't seem to carry over very well. So, but you know what? That was with the markers. I'm going to go ahead and try it a little bit with the pencil here and see what we think. Why not, right? You can do what you want. Okay, I guess that's not too bad. I guess it really just depends on how much you enjoy coloring and how much effort you want to put into it. Some people just want to, get it done. And some people find it relaxing. And for me, it depends on my mood. Actually, I really like it until my hand starts cramping up, and then not so much fun. Okay. Oops. I guess I like it a little better with the pencil because I can control the color of the pencil a lot more than I can with the marker. I was able to do it a little less intensely with the pencil than I was with the marker. So that's the difference of the two. Okay, so now this piece, the cluster of the three, is fine. These two little ones we are going to cut out. So we're right on here. We're just going to cut them out. And as usual, when I cut things out like this, I'm going to leave like a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch white border around the edge of the image. I personally find that looks a little better to me than trying to cut straight on the line, directly on the line. But of course, it's up to you. And when you cut something like this out, you actually want to move the paper. The scissors stays in the same position pretty much. I mean, not that you can't move it, but it's not this. You're not working your scissors around the paper. You're pushing the paper into the open scissors. And, you know, coming down obviously with the scissors a little bit. And that's how you are supposed to cut. See, there's rules for everything. Don't know who figured that out, but it works. The reason for it is, well, one, you're not working your hand as much, but two, it is a smoother cut than when if you keep moving your scissor around. It's a little, the paper can get a little jaggedy. It's not quite as smooth. If you move the paper, it seems to be a smoother edge. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to give you that a little bit of a border. Your eye will forgive any imperfections. Okay, so now that we have those all, and I'm going to move my scrap paper just so you can see it against the board a little better. Okay, now that we have them all cut out, we're going to assemble the card. So the first piece you'll need is your purple card. And I'm just looking. You are going to put the dark side up in your scoreboard. And you're going to line it up 8.5 inches at the top. And you're going to score at 3 inches. And you're going to fold and burnish. All right, and then you are going to, as long as we've got the scoreboard ready, we are going to use our periwinkle piece, and you're going to put the darker side up. It is very subtle difference, so don't worry about it if you can't tell the difference. And you're going to score it 1/2 inch. Oh, and of course, if you're doing the graduation card, same thing, just black cardstock. Now, I will say the measurements are this piece on the graduation card is slightly bigger because it needed to be slightly bigger to fit the congratulations graduate. So I made that adjustment for you. And you are going to fold. And the proper way to fold is the indent, and you fold back on the indent. The paper is just a little more flexible that way. All right. And we're going to start off by putting our embossed panel. I embossed these all for everybody. The nice flower design. And we're going to put, now the way I have it, there's not really a correct way or incorrect way. It's whatever you like it. So the flower design is coming up. That's the embossed. If you prefer it so it's debossed, you can turn it the other way. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to put my adhesive on the debossed side where the flowers are going down into the paper, and all around the outside and a piece in the middle. And I'm going to open up my dark purple card. You got to be careful here because dark side periwinkle down. Yes. Sorry, I'll slow down a little bit. Anyway, we're going to attach. Oh, shoot. Don't put it down yet. Sorry. Lost focus there for a minute. All right. If you did put it down, just pick up this side a little bit. Okay, we have to put our flap in. So on our periwinkle piece, on your 1/2 inch flap here, you're going to put a line or two of adhesive on the inside of the flap, okay? And then we're going to stick it behind. If you haven't stuck it down yet, you can just hold it up and center it top to bottom. Now, I've turned my piece because it's easier for me to see the center. And in a minute, I will hold it up for you. Okay, so you're going to attach it. You want your score line to show. You do not want to put the score line behind the panel. You want that bump to show. And then hopefully you haven't put it down yet, so you can turn it over and add adhesive to that flap there. Otherwise, you're doing a little maneuvering job like I'm doing here. And just make sure you get adhesive back there. And stick it down really well, especially if you had to peel it back up like I did. Luckily, I hadn't really pressed it in that. Sorry about that. Wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. All right, so this is what you have so far. Might as well, since it's all opened up, we might as well finish the inside of the card. So we're going to, you should have 2 pieces of this green plaid. And I'm going to put adhesive on the back, which is the floral side. And we're going to put that on the left panel here. And we're going to leave the periwinkle blank so we can write a message there. You could also write a message on here, but it's a little harder to write on the emboss panel. But if you did want, you could always put a piece of paper over it or on this side if you had a longer message. All right, and now we're going to close that up. And on this side, we're going to put our other, our other piece of green plaid. So put adhesive on the back. And again, put it centered on this flap. All right, and then we're going to put our Thinking of You strip down. And I just flip this here so you can see it. And we're going to put that about 1/4 of an inch up from 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch from the bottom of the card. It should be the same length as your flap. If it's not, mine is just a shade longer. So I'm going to turn it over, run my scissor edge along the edge of that purple and just trim off. It's just a sliver of a piece of paper there. Okay. Going to add our 2 little violet heads. Now they're smaller, so sometimes they're a little harder to put the adhesive on. So you could always use like an actual glue or glue stick or whatever you had if that's easier for you, or those glue dots. So I'm going to put the bigger one down first, and I'm going to turn that. I'm going to put that on the right side and kind of turn it to the right a little bit. And then I'm going to put the left one on top of it and then kind of tilt that one to the left a little bit. I'm just going to use my bone folder to push them, burnish them down a little bit, but that's what we've got there. Apparently I've got an extra piece of purple here. All right, and so now on this flap, we're going to put the dark purple rectangle and then the flowers on top of that. So I'm going to put adhesive on the back of both of those pieces. These pieces are smaller, so you don't have to have that extra adhesive in the middle if you don't want, but I always add the extra for security. And then each of these pieces are centered as well. So the dark purple, whoops, and then the flowers, make sure you don't put them on upside down. Burnish those down a bit. And there you have it. Whoops. So as you can see, it's much quicker to put the card together than after you've done all the coloring. Okay. And the same technique goes for the graduation card. You've got the black pattern paper on the front of the flap and then the cap. You've got the diploma on the left here. Make sure you use a little extra adhesive on this piece because sometimes that glitter paper has a bit of a texture to it. This one is pretty smooth, but if you had one that was a little more textured, sometimes it doesn't stick as well. So you want to give it that extra sticking power. And then on the inside, you have the glitter again and your congratulations graduate panel. And I did a slightly a different embossing folder for this piece because I didn't want a floral and I wanted to be a kind of gender neutral design. Not that guys can't like flowers, but okay. So I will try to leave these aside and get the next card. All right, so the next card is this one here. And this one, we use this fun die cut. It's kind of orange peel in quilting. This design is called an orange peel. So that's a die cut that I cut those out with. And we've got some more flowers here to color. And I will color these with markers. Okay, I've got an extra flower here. So you only need 3. You've got one, you should have one big one and one small one. And I'm just, gonna test my colors here. All right, so these markers are, like I said, they're an alcohol ink marker, which is a marker that came into, it's been a while now since I've heard of them, but I didn't know about them when I was a kid, so I don't know when they were invented. But actually, I'm going to start with the darkest color, okay? And they blend really well. So that is the advantage of the alcohol inks versus the water-based one, which don't really blend well. And they are quite an investment. They can be pretty expensive. So if you're not going to use them a lot, you probably don't want to spend the money on them, but I'll tell you about them in case you do. I will say that I avoided them for a long time because I don't do a lot of coloring. And I should have done the yellow first. Oh well. But, you know, when Close to My Heart started carrying them, I finally did invest in them. And I love them, even though I still don't do a ton of coloring. Okay, so I did the darkest color around the outside of those 3 petals. I am now going to switch gears and go back to the yellow because I realized I should have done that first. It's not the color I want. Okay, it's actually this marker is actually called Gold Brown, and it's not really the yellow I want. Okay, we'll go back to this one. I don't know. I was looking and I couldn't find the yellow I used, but so these are going to be a little different than the sample, but I'm actually going to go back and put a little more of this in, so just so it doesn't look weird. So as you see, oh, maybe you can't see because I didn't make sure it was in the camera. In this one, I used more of a goldy color in the center. Um, So anyway, sorry to go back. These are Spectrum Noir markers. These are the tri-blends. There are Spectrum Noir markers that are not tri-blends that are a single color. But as you can see, as I'm going through the tips here, there's actually 3 different colors on each marker. There's a light, a medium, and dark, which helps with the blending. And they are just lovely. I'm going to go ahead and now let's just finish this flower first. So I went in there with the yellow there. I had already done the outline of the petals with the darkest color. And now I'm going to do the lightest color. And I'm kind of overlapping a little bit with the purples to help blend. And I'm going to put the medium between them when I'm done, which will blend them even more. So this is another reason for the smooth color, the smooth textured cardstock I use, because it really helps with these markers. So I colored the inside with the light color, and now I'm going to go through with the dark color and not to put a medium color and go over that line between the light and the dark, and it's going to just blend it out a little bit. And the best thing about these markers is you can go over a couple of times and it really changes the color that comes out, and it's not going to necessarily rip your paper apart like a water-based marker might, because that alcohol evaporates, I guess, and doesn't just sink into the paper like the water-based ink does. Okay, now I really want to make the outside of these a little darker, so I'm just, again, it's the same tip that I used the first time, the darker one, and I'm going around the outside again. As the color sinks into the paper a little bit, it also smooths out a little more. And I colored those 2 back petals with the medium shade, and I'm going through and adding highlights with the darkest shade. And as we talked about on the last card, I did go through, you can see, with with a navy marker and add even deeper lines, but I don't think I'm going to do that this time. I don't totally love it. I think I'm just going to keep them more subtle like I have here. So if I want it even darker, I can just go over them again and it will make it darker. And that is the advantage of the alcohol markers, that you can do that. Another nice thing about them is that they are refillable. So even though they are expensive, you can get ink refills, which are also expensive, but cheaper than replacing the marker. That's especially important for these because there's 3 tips of the well of them, and there's several markers I've had that I've used a lot, the color of a lot, and I've had to refill them because they've gone dry on me. But it helps with the expense if you do use them quite a bit. All right, so I'm going on one of the other the small flowers and the two small flowers actually now, and putting the yellow in the middle. And I'm going to put these Goldie Browns, not because I love the color, but because this one is a little more of that shade, and I just want them to be similar on the card. And I'm not coloring that other large flower because that was extra, because I kind of had stamped it off the edge of the paper there. So I gave myself a second one. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the dark marker and the dark shade, I should say, of this marker, of the purple marker, and go around the edges of each petal. Now, I'm not saying that other markers won't work. All are great. I'm just telling you about these in case you don't know. Okay, and that, whoops. And then I'm going to use the lightest color and fill in between that dark line and the yellow. Don't color over all the yellow. I think, I don't know about this brand, but I think the Copics, which are kind of were the best known brand of alcohol markers, at least to me when I first heard of them. I think their tips can be replaced too. So basically the only thing that, you know, if you needed a new barrel, then you need to buy a new one. I'm going through with the medium now. And I'm realizing that I want these two petals darker. So I had colored them the light color, and now I'm going over them with the medium because I didn't want them that light. And I'm going back with the dark and adding some more highlights. I guess the thing with these markers is that I tend to go back and forth with the colors a lot and put a little more effort into the coloring than I do sometimes with the colored pencils or other markers. All right, so that's that one. And then I'm going to do this one. And there is such a thing as being too fussy, because there's been many a time that I keep coloring and then it's too much coloring and I don't like it. So hopefully that will not happen to you. I just filled this in all the way with the dark instead of going to the medium, but that's okay. I will add just a little tiny bit of light in here because I didn't work all the way up to the yellow. Okay. And on these petals, I'll add more white in the middle. And then I'm going to get the medium and go between the two and maybe blend them out a little bit. You know, these petals aren't, and the flowers overall aren't very big, so the blend is not as noticeable. But when you have a bigger image, you know, like a larger flower or an animal or something, you will tend to notice that blend a little better. Okay, so those are my flowers, 2 of them anyway. And then like on the sample, like I said, I had done those navy blue kind of highlights on them, or low lights. But I don't know. I like some of them. I don't like others. I'm going to just keep them off of this one. Change it up. Okay, and now we will switch to the leaves. You should have 3 of them. 2 of them are pointing one direction and 1 of them is pointing the other. That, however, is irrelevant for coloring them in. Which one do I want here? I'm going to color with the lightest color. I'm going to color the whole leaf in with the lighter color. And then just like we did with the colored pencils, I will go in with the medium shade and add some, darken the area of the veining. I think this marker needs some re-inking. And I don't have a re-inker. Okay, I will say this, that if you are considering and trying out some alcohol markers, these are probably not the best ones to buy now, because I'm finding the re-inkers are hard to find. And I contacted the company last year and they said, well, they weren't really sure if they were going to keep offering them. And I'm like, well, that's kind of crazy. So I did buy some of the Copic re-inkers, which of course, then you have to figure out what color works best. And so I'm going to say, if you're interested and you would be interested in re-inkers, make sure that whatever you choose has them available. I was a little annoyed, quite frankly, but then when I realized I could just use another brand to re-ink them, I was like, okay. Just makes it slightly more difficult, like I said, to match the colors, but at least I have an option. Okay, so colored them all in with the lightest, and now I'm just adding some detail on the veining. I'm just basically tracing over the drawn lines and then adding just a little more deeper color here near the bottom, because as you can see, well, a lot of that's going to be covered up, but when you put them under the flower, I just want want it to be a little darker down there. And you can get as fancy or simple as you want. And then if you are done coloring, you can start cutting them out. And again, like we did before, I leave a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch white border around each piece. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut that piece off. Sometimes you might find it easier to cut the bulk of the paper off. You can roughly cut around each leaf first, and then do the more detailed cut, whatever works for you. I'm going to put that over there. You can see the, well, here. Well, you'll see better if I move the scrap paper away, and then I'll put them on the purple. And then you can see that border. Okay. These are small, but they're not too hard to cut out. I think because they kind of have a wavy edge, cutting them out with an imperfect line doesn't look bad. Got 3 leaves and 3 flower heads on this card. And this, we're going to attach these to the card with our foam tape. Okay, here we go. Oh, I moved this and then you couldn't see it. All right, I'm going to move these aside so I can score my cardstock. You can barely tell the difference between this paper, but I've got the darker side up. It's 9 inches wide. I know you can only see part of that there, but I'm going to score at 4.5 inches, so half. Or if you don't, have a scoreboard, just fold it in half. The other one was a little more challenging if you don't have a scoreboard, considering it wasn't quite in half. But this one easy. Okay, now this is a little more challenging to glue down, but you can do it with your tape gun or your adhesive. You just want to hit it in the bigger spots. You can also do if you can, it is wide enough to put your adhesive on if you drive in a straight line. You guys know I don't always drive in a straight line. And there I actually did. It's funny because I was going to show you if I didn't. So I guess I'm going to deliberately kind of go off the edge here And if you do go off the edge, you can push your adhesive back towards, make sure, oh, I must have done that when I was stamping. I was going to say, make sure if you have inky fingers from your markers, you don't transfer your ink to your white cardstock. And I must have done that the other day because I don't have inky fingers, but I see a little tiny smudge there. Okay, and then I would also recommend, if you can handle it, is to put a little bit of adhesive inside each of these squares, just to help tack down. It just has to be a tiny bit. If you have glue, you can put a drop of glue. If it's driving you nuts, you don't have to. It's just me being a little anal about making sure that everything sticks down to your card well. And in a spot, it's coming to the front, so I'm just going to push it back. And then you can center it onto the front of your card. And if there is, just rub your finger over the openings. You can generally see the adhesive. It's a little glossy, so you can look and see if anything's coming through. And if it is, you can generally wipe it away with your finger. Often an eraser will take it off too. Just make sure if you do use an eraser, make sure it's clean, because if there's some, like on mine, that is now green and yellow because I actually used it to erase some colored pencil. What I'll do is I'll just give it a scrub against the paper to make sure your surface is nice and white, and then you can usually pick up any glue, rub away any excess glue with your eraser. But if there's something smudged on the eraser, that it could leave a smudge on your cardstock. Oh, look at that. The ink transfer can be erased. Often ink can be erased with an eraser, if it's, subtle. If it's a big dark spot, it's probably not going to disappear entirely. Okay, and then the other pieces are all going to, you'll notice I had an imperfect stamping on there, so that is the back of mine. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to tell you about the markers as I turn them over. The alcohol markers do bleed through. So if you do color with them, just be aware that it is going to bleed through the paper. So you don't want to put it on a piece that you intended the back to be seen. Sorry, I'm just looking for my foam tape here. So we are going to put foam tape on all the flowers, the leaves, and the message to raise them up off the card. And I use small pieces of foam tape. So I actually cut that in half and then cut small pieces. Because you don't like a ton, you don't need a ton, but I do like to, I'd rather have two small pieces kind of on the edge of the piece I'm putting it on, as opposed to like one piece in the middle, because I think it holds it up better. And then if you had a really big piece, I would put a whole bunch of little pieces on it. Like on the message here, I'm putting one in each corner. And then I'm going to put one in the middle. And I'm actually going to put a wider one in the middle since it's kind of a long piece here. And then I'll put a few pieces on each flower. Really skinny ones there on these smaller flowers. All right. And now take all the backing pieces off, which is sometimes the fiddliest thing to do. So I've got my message, and I'm going to put that on the bottom right, in the bottom right corner. It's going to overhang the white piece just a little bit, but not go quite to the edge. And about a ½ inch or so up from the bottom of the card. It's not crucial. I'm going to put the biggest flower on first, the big flower. It's only 2 sizes, so the larger flower. And I'm putting that right in the middle, if you're going down, the middle diamond, the first one from the left, right there, kind of over that diamond in the circle that's formed by the shapes. And I put it over in that position simply because then there's room here for the leaves to the left. They're not hanging off the card. So I will put one of each of the smaller flowers in the 2 diamonds above and below that large flower. So it's really easy with this die cut to space them evenly, since you already have a pattern grid there. It's really hard to get the backing off of these tiny pieces. Okay. And then you can figure out which way your leaf goes, and the one that goes that direction, we're going to stick those with the top and bottom flower, and I'm just going to stick the stem, a little bit of the leaf underneath the flower. And you'll probably feel when you stick it under this one that goes to the right here, going on the large one, you'll feel some of that foam tape underneath. You just stick it where it fits so that you're not getting it underneath or underneath or on top of another piece of foam tape, but wherever it fits there. That's where you can put it. And that's that card. Another sometimes on the shapes I'll tell you to not put a piece of foam tape in a certain area so that you don't have a double layer, but in this way you just really want the stem under there. You don't have to stick it that far under. I'm going to throw these out and hopefully not dump them on the floor. Okay. Let me grab those watercolor. Let me make sure I have water in one of my water brushes so this works. All right, give me a second. I'm going to go put water in this, and I'm going to grab my watercolor pencils so I can demo those for you. Okay, so this is my set of watercolor pencils. I love that they say children's watercolors. It's like, come on. And dig out my purple colors here and yellow. It's funny, it looks like a lot more than 15. Okay, so I'll do this card. And this is the same die cut as we just used. But obviously this one is purple. Okay, I'm going to move these aside. I don't have as much room tonight because I'm zoomed in. All right, so this is actually two different stamps here, two different flowers. I just put them together so it looked like a single one. And I didn't stamp that one too well. Okay, so like I said, they let me start with the yellow. They color just like any other colored pencil. Now you just want to be aware, you want to color the whole thing in before you add water to it. Because once you add water, you're not going to be able to color with the colored pencil. And then I'm going to start with the light purple. Now it's been a long time since I've used these. So you don't have to worry about pencil marks so much, stroke marks with this one, because the water is going to, smooth that out for you. So really, in terms of coloring, I'm going to actually be kind of rough on purpose. You don't have to be quite so precise on the coloring. And on the back too here, I'm going to just get some more color in there, make it darker. So even that is sufficient. I'm just going to add a little more darker on the outside of these front petals. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and color this violet that is kind of on its last legs. Okay, so I just really roughly got some color in there. I didn't carefully fill that all in. And then I'm going to add my water. Now this is a water brush. It's a barrel that you can put water in, contains the water. You do not need one of these. You can use any paintbrush and have a little, barrel of cup of water here. I just find this is, I have these, they're fun. You do have to be careful because I'm going to squeeze a little bit. I'm going to have a tissue here just in case. See, oh, did you see that water pour out of it? I don't know if you did, but you don't want to get it too wet. So, be careful. So squeeze, get some water through the brush, but don't have it dripping. Don't keep squeezing, I guess I should say. And then we are going to, you don't want to get it too wet. Well, maybe you do. That could be fun too. But since this is just a small area, I'm not getting the yellow too wet because I don't know. I don't really want to blend the yellow with the purple too much. But can you see? I'll lift it up in a minute. Can you see how it now looks like it's been painted, watercolored? So if you don't feel that, if you like coloring with colored pencils, but you don't really feel like you're good at it because you're always getting brush strokes and whatnot, but you're not confident to paint with a paintbrush, this is kind of the perfect hybrid of that. And I can go in now with a pencil. I don't know. Let's experiment. I didn't get this very wet. So I can go back in with my pencil to add some more dark. And actually it's blending because it is wet. It's kind of melting the, it's not ink, the pencil as I color it, but I can add more water and blend that in. Now, if you're going to add a lot of water, you're going to want to use more of a watercolor paper. You don't want to get this cardstock too wet. And I will say, I didn't say this earlier, but I did use, when I stamped everybody's, because I didn't know what medium you were going to use to color them in, I did stamp with my, with the ink that can withhold both alcohol markers and watercolors, so that's why this is working for me. If you want to add more color, even more color, you can wait until it dries and then add some more. Whoops, see, I just squeezed that brush over there and I shouldn't have done that. But you can do it a couple times. If you're going to put too much, if you're going to put a lot more water on it, I would recommend letting it dry in between so it doesn't tear the paper. There you go. I forgot how much fun these are. So just something else to play with. Whoops. No, I'll retrieve that later. I didn't get my greens out. The The reason I have so many colors, I realized I forgot I had that set of 15, but I had a set of, or not a set, but I had some other colors too that I put in there. That's why I have so many colors. I forgot. See, you forget because there's like, oh, I'm coloring carefully, and you don't have to color carefully with these. So I'm going to go through like I did before and concentrate some more color along the vein and at the bottom. And here in the kind of in the fold of the leaf in there, close to the flower. And then I can add some water to blend it. If you live close by and you want to try these out, let me know. Stop by. Happy to show them to you. Happy to use any of my tools that don't get used enough. Okay, and now you can, on my sample, you can see that I actually took my marker when I colored these and I did a line on the stem. And I'm going to do that here too, just to add some green next to that black stamped stem. This is, these images don't call for it, but like if you were painting or coloring in a scene, you know, and you had grass or sky or whatever, that's kind of would be nice for the watercolors because you can just, you know, scribble some color in and then add the water and fill in the area and get kind of a nice impressionistic look without worrying about. I mean, I like watercolors. I kind of like, you know, techniques to create a background or whatever, but I'm not really an expert at painting images or anything. So brushes are, I have a hard time controlling the brush for precision. Okay, so I just made a nice colored stem. All right, so hopefully you liked, oh, I forgot I dropped the top. Like that demo. So, and actually the nice thing about this is if you don't have any colored pencils, you could just buy the watercolored pencils and you can use them as regular colored pencils and never add water to them, or you can, you know, have them to add the water. So they're kind of, you don't need to have both. Okay, I'm just cutting these apart and I'm going to, again, cut them out, leaving a little bit of a white border. Whoops, got a little close there. if you, I think if you color more intensely and add a lot more color, you'll get a deeper color. Again, but these images, there's such a small space. I didn't want to add a lot of water to it. Okay. All right, so again, we are going to either fold our cardstock in half or score it at 4.5 inches. And fold in half. And then we are carefully going to put our adhesive on our purple die cut. Ow. Stuck my knee into my desk. And I'm going to go around the outside. See, I veered off on that one. And then I'm going to add little bits inside each of the diamonds. My finger just got stuck in my adhesive there. Didn't want to let go. Okay, and then I'm gonna, oh, where did I go off the edge here? Smooth that out. Okay, and then you're gonna center it on your card. All right, and then on both the greeting and the two flowers, I'm going to add my foam tape. Now, for these stems here, you really want to add something behind them because you don't want them flapping and, like, if you're putting in the envelope, getting stuck and ripping, but you really do have to cut a skinny piece. Well, I guess that depends on how skinny you cut your stem while you were cutting it out, but I'm guessing you have a skinny piece like I do. So I'm just cutting some really skinny strips. And trying to fit them on the cardstock. You don't have to have the whole thing covered, but just in enough spots so that it's a little secure. And then up on the flower heads, you can have a little bigger pieces. Slightly bigger anyway. my right here, my stem is really skinny, so I'm not going to worry about it there, but I have some above and below that spot, so it should be okay. And then again, like I did on the other card, I'm going to put 4 little squares in the corners here, and then a slightly bigger piece in the middle. All right, and then take all the backing pieces off. And put this near the top right corner. About 1/2 inch from the top of the card, 1/4 inch from the right side of the card. Be careful when you try to take the backing pieces off these. I hope the ouch was for some. Oh, that was my knee. See, I already forgot. I was going to say, I hope that ouch is because of something I did and because you did, but I imagine it's for my knee. So, yeah. When you're taking the skinny backing pieces off, just make sure you don't rip off the whole piece of foam tape. I constantly bash my knee into this desk. It's because I don't have it's what's keeping it up is file cabinets, so they're convenient, but they're kind of big, but so it leaves a lot of surface area for me to bash my knee into. Okay, so this right one here, I'm going to no, I'm not, because I have foam tape right at the bottom. But see, on the sample one, I kind of tucked it under to make it look like it was all one piece. This one's not going to look like that so much because of where I have my foam tape, but that's okay. I'll lift them both up so you can see. This one was tucked under a little more. This one not so much, but that's okay. All right, and that is that card. Now we've got one more card to go. It's getting, we're almost at 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put the card together first, all the pieces except the coloring, and then I will do the coloring at the end, so that if you have to get going with all my rambling, you should know how to color by now. So although obviously this one I went with a slightly different color theme. We went pink instead of purple. But same idea, just pink instead of purple. This is a trifold card, sort of. I mean, it is a trifold. It's just not a symmetrical trifold. So, I'm just consulting my notes here because I just want to get the score lines correct for you. All right, so you're going to put the 11-inch side in your scoreboard, and you're going to score at 4 1/4 inches. And then you're going to score at 8 3/4 inches. Now, if you don't have a long scoreboard, if you only have the short one, that means You would score at the 4 1/4. You would turn it around at 180 degrees, and then you would score at 2 1/4. It will give you the same result. Move all my pieces aside here so I can work where you can see. And let me put this card here so you can see what I'm doing. All right. So we're going to fold fold on our score lines. The shorter flap I have coming in front, but we're going to switch that around a whole bunch of times as we glue paper down. On the front, we are going to use our pink glitter paper and one of our strips of the green plaid. So we will put adhesive on each of those pieces. Whoops. And then we'll put the pink glitter paper on the larger flap, centered. And then the green on the right smaller flap. And then we're going to do the same thing when we open it up. Going to put the green on the right, and then this is not glitter. This is mulberry solid color cardstock. I used the dark side, but you can use whichever side you like better. If you requested, if you requested the Happy Mother's Day message, the card was already folded for you because I had to see where to center it to stamp that in there for you. So you may not have had to go through that scoring process. By the way, you can see here I am using my adhesive runner right over my good card. I don't recommend you do that because if you overshoot, you can get adhesive in a place you don't want. But I'm working in a limited spot here, although I know you guys are all working in a limited spot too, because that's what we do to ourselves. And I really should have moved it out of the way, but you know, it's one of those bad habits I have. Okay, so you're going to center each of these pieces onto the flaps, just like we did on the front. And you either have your Mother's Day message or you have a blank card. And then you can see after we color and cut out our pink violet, we will put that in there. I will show you. But let's go ahead and glue down our mulberry panel, our pink panel here. I am not going to attach this to our piece that we're coloring first. And the simple reason for that is if well, there's two reasons for it. If you screw up and you don't like it, you don't want it on the card, right? You'd want to stamp another one and try again. The other reason is you have, it's only attached halfway. So you have a bump here now. even if you open it up to color it. And that will, if you're using colored pencils, that will, you will see that texture between the layer of the paper, the layer of the cardstock, and then your surface, your desk or table surface. You can see, you will be able to see stroke marks in that. So you always want to color on a flat surface. So we'll color it first, then attach. But I will go ahead and attach this piece first. Now you're only going to put adhesive on a little less than half of this piece. Okay, so if you are a little worried about doing that measurement, I actually used I had the lighter side showing on the front. So I'm going to center this left to right on the card. Okay, and I'm about 3/4 of an inch down from the top. And I'm going to hold this in place and make sure it's relatively straight. And I'm going to open it. And I just opened it that way because it was easier for me. Now I am going to take a pencil and I am going to push like a hairline. I'm pushing my card a hairline to the right there. Or it would be the right if I'm pushing it up because I turned mine. But towards the outer edge of this. And I'm going to draw a very faint pencil line against the edge of the card. Okay. I don't know if, there you go, that you can see it. Very faint. I guess you know, if you're confident where you drew it, you can draw a heavier line. And I am going to now just put adhesive to the left of that line. Like I said, you can kind of just eyeball this if you want. I'm just showing you a little trick in case you're not confident eyeballing it. All right. And I'm going to put an extra piece in there so it sticks well. And then I'm going to close this back up along the front, and with my adhesive on the right side, I'm going to, the adhesive picked up some eraser shavings I had on my scrap paper. I'm going to center it again on my card and stick it down, and it should only stick to the right side there. And if you, I do see my pencil line a little bit. So that's why we made it faint. So then we can erase any visible pencil line. By pushing it up a little, I was hoping to not see that pencil line, but obviously I didn't push it enough, or I positioned it slightly different. All right. Hopefully that made sense. And now this card is all together. I'm going to color this for you. I just didn't know if you had to go. So when you're done coloring this, this will be attached to that. And again, on the inside, you'll have the single flower and leaf. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my watercolor pencils again, just for fun. Pink. I already have the yellow and green out. Okay. going to start. Oh, and we also have our inside flowers. So I'm going to start with the yellow again. It's funny how, like, this one you can definitely tell that these leaves are supposed to be darker, but this one, onto all of them, I did add some yellow in there. It's very weird how I did that, how the flowers look different. All right, and then I'm going to add that. It's not a watercolor pencil. I don't know how it got in there. All right, I don't really have a gold. This is more of a orange, but obviously, since I didn't add a lot of water over the yellow on the other card, it didn't matter if I used a pencil that wasn't a watercolor pencil. All right, and then I am going to do the 3. Oh, this one has 4 front leaves. I wonder if that means it's good luck, like a clover. And again, because it's the watercolor, I can just color roughly. And I'm going to test. All right. I just wanted to see how bright that was. As you saw on the other card, it lightens up when you turn it to the watercolor, so we'll see how that works. Add some of this brighter color around the outside. I'm pressing a little harder this time, hoping to get some more color, a little deeper color. I gotta say, there is something a little, I mean, it's zen to color any color, but when you aren't so worried about, well, I'm staying in the lines, but I'm not so worried about coloring everything precisely without stroke marks. It's a little freeing. I guess it's like when you see a little kid coloring with his crayons. Okay, these, since the leaves are closed up, I'm just using the darker color on those. Go and color my individual flower over here. Oops. I guess that's my least favorite thing about colored pencils. The breakage. I have no doubt that I've dropped these pencils too, since I dropped everything. Okay. See my perfectly scribbled flowers? I will do my leaves. Now, I'm thinking because these leaves are so small, I am just going to color those in nicely, and I am not going to add water to them because I think I am more likely, I mean, there's not a lot of space in there to blend, but I don't want the water running all over the place and getting outside the leaves so much. So it doesn't seem like there's a benefit to adding the water to those. And they are definitely easy to color in. Now I will roughly color in the bigger leaf, as well as one of these. We don't need two of these. I obviously just stamped an extra. And then I will add my deeper color to the veining area. And I'm going to use the darker color on these flowers that are no longer in bloom. I'm not sure how much water I'm going to add, so I'm making sure to color in that area completely. And then on my bigger leaf here, I'm just going to add some to the veining area and the bottom of the leaf. And then I'm going to add some lines of colors to the stems here. And it's a little, in the jumble of stems, it's a little hard to see which ones connect from the top to the bottom, but as long as you kind of get some color near each of the black lines, you're good. Okay, so that's what I did there. And now get some water onto my brush, and I'm going to start with the flowers. I will blend the yellow a little bit this time since I got that orange instead of gold, and then I'll come out into the pink. With watercolors, the color will stay on your brush. So once you've gone into the darker areas, and if you want to go back into the light, make sure you clean your brush off first, or you will transfer the darker color into the lighter area. So I'm going to clean that off. See, I don't know if you can see, there's a little color there. Get some more water into my brush tip and go back into the lighter areas and work back into the dark. Just cleaned my brush off again before I went back into the yellow. Now work into the lighter pink. I really did make it a little more intense this time. I think these are fun because you feel like you're an artist watercoloring, but you don't have to have all the skill. Just want a little more water. I'm going to color this flower before I do the green of the leaves. So I don't have another class planned yet, but I will be working on one. I think I'll do some more, try to do some more masculine or some kind of neutral cards next, since these were very floral and kind of girly. Again, not that guys can't like flowers. I do notice that because I laid down more pencil to get the more intense color in there, kind of has a chalky kind of finish. It's not unpleasant. It's just interesting. Okay, and now I will do the green. You do want to have lots of like tissues or paper towels around while doing this. Well, I do. All right. I want to go over my stems a little bit. But like I said, I'm not really going to go over those little tiny leaves. So that's that. Sounds like you need some better light, Susan. Need a nice test light. Whoops. I squeezed. See, I did the big no-no. I squeezed the water brush over my coloring there, and I got way too much water. I got these really intense LED lights. They're really small, but they're very intense, and they have a magnet on the end of them, and it comes with these little metal discs. They're like 1.5 inches big, and you glue the disc to something, and then it came with a whole bunch of them, so you can move the thing around, and then you can put it over whatever surface you like. Now, I bought it for my sewing machine, so I have the disc on the back of my sewing machine, and it comes over my work surface. But if you had something else, to attach it to, they're really convenient. They weren't expensive, and they were really convenient for bringing, putting it, if you didn't want to have a big base or didn't have the room for a big base for a big light. They're kind of nice. I also have I have one that I thought would be convenient, a smaller one. It does have a base that, plugs into a USB thing. But I don't have a USB thing for it to plug into anywhere where I want to use it. So it's less useful than I thought it was going to be. But I'll find a purpose for it. Yeah, I guess a sunroom without sun doesn't really work. All right, so now I'm just cutting these out like I did the other ones. We're not going to cut out the bouquet. We're just cutting out the single leaf and flower. This card is your reward for doing all that cutting on the other ones. You only have to cut 2 pieces. All right. And no foam tape on this card. We're just going to put regular adhesive. Now, if these were really wet, obviously I did a bad stamping on this side. That's why my bad side is got the adhesive on it. What was I saying? Oh, if these were really wet, if you had put a lot of water down, I would wait until they were dry to put the adhesive on. But I did not use a lot of water, so I'm good. And we'll put this. Whoops. I didn't get that quite centered. That's better. And then we'll put the flower and leaf in the bottom left corner of the inside. Whoop. So we got inside, outside there. All right, I will stay connected for a couple minutes in case you have questions as I clean up all my pencils. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you had fun coloring or watching me color. And I'll be in touch with another card class. Did you guys see the snow that's in Colorado today? So glad that's not us. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's funny. I had that pencil that was not the watercolor pencil in there, and I'm looking, and I'm wondering if it was supposed to belong in, because it is a different, oh no. It's funny. It's got the same number. They're both 942, but one is, oh no, they're both yellow ochre. Never mind. Ignore me. I was wondering if it belonged with my collection all this time and I was missing a pencil, but nope. All right. You know where to find me if you have any other questions. And I hope to see you soon. Good night. If I can find my mouse. Bye. Oh. Apparently, I forgot where my end stream button is. All right, bye.